Hi, Derek. My name's Steve Bova, and I live in Ocean Shores. I, too, have children I'm concerned about. That's why I'm here.
Thanks.
This is called solar radiation management. This happened over my house this summer. Planes sprayed and sprayed. Pretty soon, it turned into, there's one going to block the sun out completely. Then you see three little turd clouds, I call them, because they're full of chemical crap. It's called SRM, and a man by the name of David Keith, he's a NASA scientist, wrote a book, A Case for Geoengineering. People need to read it and look up and wake up. That said, I want to move on to the Navy base that's being proposed up here, the EMPs, electric magnetic pulses. We need to legislate laws that this type of project with government money is put in large papers, not little tiny ones. Yeah. There's another project called the GeoPrism project, which I'm sure nobody's heard about. I picked up a small highway shopper in Morton 2 years ago. That right now they are fracturing Mount St. Helens by drilling 80-foot holes on her and blowing it up with 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of TNT. Look it up, GeoPrisms project. Okay, we need to put these in more than just a tiny little highway shopper so people know. That said, I'd like to touch on what the Fish and Game said, that they're on board with the Navy's proposal. Well, the Fish and Game evidently don't care a hoot about our game and fish. Miranda Wecker, who is the head honcho for that department, advocates the eradication with pesticides of bait shrimp in our bays. What part of salmon eating bait shrimp doesn't she understand? She needs to go. So I'd like to take your attention to the 107th Library of Congress. That was in the years 2001 and 2002. A man by the name of Dennis Kucinich enacted laws banning these weapons, and I quote, electronic, magnetic weapons, psychotronic weapons, chemtrails, and biological weapons. So my question, you being on the science, or used to be on the Science and Technology Committee, you should have some of these answers. My first question is, what exactly are they spraying? What is this? And the other question is, what are the other defense purposes listed on the environmental review for the naval base? Other defense purposes. Could it be weather? Could it be something else? What are these other? And number three, is they're dismantling HARP in Alaska. Is this EMP technology part of the HARP, derived from the HARP technology in Alaska? And the last one, why was the word chemtrail removed from this banned weapons 3 years ago? Does that mean they're allowed to spray us with chemtrails now? And electromagnetic is still in it. What gives the Navy the right to be above the law? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Thanks for the question. I'll do my best to hit as many of the points as you raised as possible. You know, and certainly, you know, we've heard from some folks actually throughout the district with regard to concern around chemtrails, and have done some outreach to the agencies that do scientific research to try to get a better understanding of it. And I can't dive into the specific answers to your specific questions, but we can certainly look and try to find answers about things like the HARP issue in Alaska that you raised. You asked about the Navy's proposal for this, what they call electronic warfare range.
And how they get above the law.
Yeah. So I don't think anyone should be above the law. I think that they should have to follow the law. And I want to say up front, you know, I get some of the concerns that folks have raised about this. You know, I grew up on the peninsula, having hiked in our forests and having fished on our waters. You know, I think that there are concerns both from a sound, you know, disruption, quality of life standpoint, and there's legitimate concerns around how this could affect both human and wildlife. safety and health. So I get that concern. You know, I've heard that concern, and I and my office have engaged on the issue. You raised the issue of the Navy doing an inadequate job around public engagement, and I think you're absolutely right. I think they've done an inadequate job of engaging the public on this, and I think, you know, the Navy has said that they informed 100 public officials. Frankly, I've not talked to a single public official who says they were informed about it. The public outreach in terms of access to the media to inform citizens that they can actually weigh in on the as part of the environmental process was inadequate. And one of the things we're looking at, we're actually working with some of the national environmental groups on this, is trying to change the expectation of the Navy when they have an operation like this, so that the expectation would be that just as they do when they try to acquire property, there's a 30-day comment period. There's an expectation of a 30-day comment period. But if they have a less than 30-day comment period and nobody comments, then they have to tack on an additional 30-day comment period. And the consequence of that is it actually creates an incentive for the Navy to do a better job of outreach and to be more vocal about the fact that there's an opportunity for citizens to weigh in. We pushed the Navy to do public meetings, both, and that's why, frankly, they did public meetings in Forks and in PA and in Port Angeles and here in Grace Harbor County. I think it's, you know, to some degree, while those meetings weren't perfect, at least it provided an opportunity for citizens to understand the Navy's process and what they're trying to accomplish, and frankly, it gave the Navy an opportunity to hear from citizens their concerns about it. And now the process sits with the Forest Service for them to look at potential impacts, both from an environmental standpoint and otherwise. You know, that's part of what's called the NEPA process, the National Environmental Policy Act. And that's a time-tested process, not just for a project like this, but for any type of process that the military wants to do. And so we've continued to engage as citizens have raised specific issues about that proposal. One, to try to make sure that those concerns are heard, and two, to ensure that if this thing does go forward, that the Navy's actually addressing and mitigating some of the concerns that folks have raised.
If it's banned by Congress, how did they get around the law?
I'd have to look at the
Please do.
and suggest that it's banned by Congress. I mean, what the Navy
It is. The 107th Congress banned it.
So what the Navy is proposing for folks who haven't been following this closely is to do, you know, the Navy currently, the peninsula has been for actually a few decades now part of what's called the Military Operating Area, an MOA, where they do some of their training usually over in the skies above the peninsula. What they've proposed is putting 3 trucks that would have electromagnetic, basically emitters, that could be used as part of the Navy's training. And the reason they say that they want this is so that when pilots are training, they're able to, for example, identify whether it be artillery batteries or radar that are coming from the ground and pose a risk to them when they're overseas on our behalf. You know, there have been a lot of legitimate questions raised, in my opinion, about why should that necessarily happen here? Shouldn't the citizens have an opportunity to weigh in more thoroughly? What kind of environmental impact? And we've certainly tried to weigh in, not just with the Navy, but with some of the other relevant federal agencies in that regard.